Carson Beck will be able to sit back there, read poetry, write a book, maybe quilt. Jackson Dart will be running for his life this entire game. Give me the dogs. Give me Kirby. The dogs roll again. Ruff, 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 ruff. All right, thank you guys for joining us. Very excited to bring on another guest picker. We're going to be picking 5 of the biggest games across the country, breaking down some others, looking at the lines from our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. And speaking of DraftKings, you can find Mike Golic Jr. over there. You can find him on Gojo and Golic, a podcast I really enjoy. I don't listen to a ton of sports podcasts, to be honest with you, but this is one I do listen to, and I like a lot. The father-son element is obviously great. But our good friend Mike Golic Jr., what is up, dog?
What's going on, guys? How we doing? I wore my finest Duke's Mayo Bowl t-shirt for you guys in honor of the occasion.
Yeah, and if people don't know, there's going to be a huge bowl of mayonnaise dumped on you at the end of the show. We really appreciate you volunteering to do that, too.
You know what? I branded myself a few ways in life, and one of them has been the Mayo guy ever since the 2021 Duke's Mayo Bowl. I got to accept that, so I'm happy to do this for you guys. I'm happy to do this for the nation. We got to get the Mayo into the hearts and minds, and in this case, into the crevices of my body of these people.
Without a doubt. Look, every situation's an NIL situation nowadays. It's 2023. But,
true.
Mike, I want to start out, before we get into the games this weekend, I just want to ask you about Notre Dame, man. Obviously, there's a lot of hope coming into this year. Not saying that all hope is dashed with Marcus Freeman, but you bring in Sam Hartman. You got, Control Joe Alt, the lead out there, and the offensive line, along with, other guys that, I think y'all are as talented up front as anybody out there. I know the skill positions outside of Sam and Estime at running back were new, kind of working in some new guys there. How disappointed is the Notre Dame fan base right now with the 3 losses and kind of the way it went down?
Yeah, I think especially when you've got the measuring stick games that were on your schedule this year that you once again went 1-3 in, right? You lost to Ohio State. You lost to a Clemson team that on paper at this point in the season didn't even look like the one that you thought you were going to get in that measuring stick game at the start of the year. And then you managed to beat USC. And to go along with that, you're right with the Sam Hartman element. It felt like a missed opportunity because Notre Dame had a value add at that position that it felt like they hadn't had in quite some time, proven quality at that spot that you were going to try and maximize. And I think now for Notre Dame going into the offseason, there's going to be questions about the offensive coordinator position going forward, what they're going to do there. That was a new hire internally with Jared Parker this last offseason, but we saw how that played out publicly before that. And Marcus Freeman has said it's all on the table in terms of, are they going to let Steve Angeli in the current quarterback room be the guys going forward? Are they going to go and try and dip back in the portal and see who's available yet again? But I still think there's great opportunity to finish this season strong. You got winnable games against Wake and Stanford before whatever bowl game you pull up, but it's going to now be heading into next year 3 for Marcus Freeman, the conversation about, all right, the big game opportunities, the thing that plagued Brian Kelly for so much of his career at Notre Dame. How do you go about getting over that hump more consistently now going forward?
No, without a doubt. It's going to be interesting to see kind of if the heat gets turned up a little bit on Marcus, which it does at a place like Notre Dame. Any top-level place, if you're not winning consistently when you replaced a guy that, well, he may not have won all the big games or most of the big games, won a lot of games at Notre Dame, actually technically the most.
He did, and I think that's a good reminder, though, with Marcus Freeman, as people have gotten frustrated maybe. I say this is still a guy who's in his second year as a head coach ever, not at the FBS level, not at the Power 5 level, ever, period. And so there were always going to be growing pains that came along with it in certain areas, but I think more often than not, Marcus Freeman has been a huge net positive for Notre Dame, and let Brian Kelly be the reminder that a little bit of patience there, albeit, year 3, you had the title run where we got to go face Bama in 2012, but there were years in the beginning that didn't look like the last 5 and 6 under Brian Kelly. And once you allowed him to get comfortable there and understand the surroundings, there's a lot of good that came from that. And so I preach patience. I think Marcus Freeman has done a lot of good for the university in the first 2 years.
Yeah, well, we always say here, patients aren't just for doctors and therapists. But speaking about the offensive coordinators at Notre Dame, one left Notre Dame to go to Alabama, and Tommy Rees last week against LSU. Finally, the game plan and the play calling tailored the strength of weapon X that we have seen Jalen Milroe be. Even, last year when he had to do some spot up duty, taking off for 75-yard touchdown runs in clutch moments against Arkansas. So they've got to be confident there. They go to Kentucky. Not a sneaky game. Devin Leary, while I still don't trust him, has gotten hot in some big spots here lately. How do you feel about this Alabama-Kentucky matchup? Bama's an 11-point favorite on the road right now as we see it on Thursday afternoon. The over-under is at 47. Do you think Kentucky has a chance here, or is Alabama just going to use science, gravity, and God to beat them?
Science, gravity, and God's a great way to put it, because you're right. It was, from Tommy's standpoint, about, I think, creating space and opportunity for Jalen Milroe. And that's both as part of the design run game, but you guys also saw this is an offense that's either going to dink it around the line of scrimmage or they're going to go bombs away down the field. Yeah. It's been that way for Milroe all season. But what that's created is this massive gap between the pass defense on the back end, the rush in front, and a quarterback who's now confident in making quicker decisions about when to take off. Before that, I'd take Alabama, and I think they got a chance to roll in this game. I'm with you, especially Devin Leary. We saw against a style of defense similar to this when he made the trip to Athens earlier in the year for what was Georgia's coming out party in that game. And you saw the struggle for Devin to make enough of those big throws into key windows earlier in that. And I think for Alabama, you've got more proven pass rushers even that are going to be getting after him in Braswell and in Dallas Turner than you had in that game with Georgia, where it's more death by the system there as they try and find one or two go-to guys truly on that defense. So I like Bama big in this game. I think they keep it rolling, and I think they're the most interesting team in terms of the college football playoff right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, David, Kentucky's going to try and run that gap scheme in the box like they did against Georgia. And if there's ever been a year where Georgia and Bama are pretty much the same on defense, it's this one.
One of the best compliments you can give a football team is to say no one else wants to play them. And who else wants to play Alabama right now? I don't think anybody in the country wants to play them. It's important not to take a step back against Kentucky on the road this weekend. Even if you win the football game, just don't take a step back, because, again, we're having these college football playoff conversations where if it comes down to a one-loss Alabama team, if they do win the SEC, they still have some work to do if it comes up against a Texas team that already beat them at home. Mike, I really enjoy hearing your perspective on Notre Dame, because while it has been a disappointing season with, the quarterback you bring in the way you start the football season, to me, if they finish strong here, that could turn it from there's a difference between disappointing and sort of alarming, especially if you're talking about a program that could win 10 football games this season. One team that Notre Dame was able to beat, you brought up, was USC. Another disappointing season out there, especially on the defensive side of the football. So I want to talk about Oregon hosting Southern Cal this weekend. Alex Grinch obviously was fired this past week. Is this a game where USC can sort of get up for this in a way that, keep up with an Oregon team that really has been on a roll since that loss against Washington, and has this mentality of like, hey, we're ready for a conference rematch in the conference championship, a game against Washington? Or sort of, your Heisman Trophy winning quarterback who's, supposedly going to be the first pick in the NFL draft, is this where they start to sort of pack things in?
I would still expect to see a great effort from this USC offense. The problem with the idea of like the juice theory of, all right, you make the change at defensive coordinator, Alex Grinch, who's been the easy punching bag for everybody on the outside, still doesn't change the fact that the bodies they have on defense and their ability to go out there and play sound football just isn't there with this unit. You're not going to develop that in November. You guys know that's not how any of this works. And so I just don't know how they're going to be able to slow this Oregon team down that, kind of like when you played against Notre Dame, is built to try and bloody you up front. This isn't Washington that wants to go east and west in the run game and north and south downfield. Yeah. Oregon wants to run right through your face and try and use Bucky Irvin in this group, a Johnny Cornelius and that offensive line to get after you up front. Defensively, they roll through kind of like we talk about with Georgia and Alabama. It feels like they built the battleship out of those outside linebacker D-end bodies that they can just roll through wave after wave because of the recruiting that's gone up in Oregon. So I really think this is a chance for them to flex their might. And especially defensively, we know they're, middle of the pack pass defense going up against one of the best passing offenses in the country. But I think we've seen the lack of continuity and complementary football for USC proves just too much for that offense to shoulder.
So that line's minus 15 Oregon right now, and an over-under at 73.5, just 3 points shy of the Washington USC over-under. Yeah. Are all those lines right, or how you leaning in this one?
I could see it being a little closer. 2 touchdowns is a lot with how potent this USC offense is, but I don't know. I'm feeling kind of crazy after that one last week. I thought there was no way they'd touch those kind of heights, and everybody kept scoring in both games. So I'd have fun flirting with that over, as reckless as it is. I know a number like that you can't really in good conscience bet, but I don't have much of a conscience with this stuff, so why not?
We were watching the game together. The live over-under for Washington USC got up to 105, 106, something like that. Meanwhile, Rutgers, Iowa over-under this week has gone down to 28.5, and I'm still taking it. So.
Yeah. All right, I would take it. If that game less than 10.5, I would take it. A couple games here I'm pretty interested in is one, West Virginia at Oklahoma. West Virginia is playing pretty damn good football right now, and Oklahoma is not looking their best. I think this line is sitting at 13.5, 14.5 on some books. Is there a little sneaky upset in here for the Mountaineers?
I don't think so. Just because looking back at Bedlam for me, I know Oklahoma, it's a 2-game sample size now, but going with the most recent one there, I turned on the tape expecting to see, Ollie Gordon run all over these guys and it to be this destruction. And what I ended up seeing was, hey, you know what? Give Oklahoma State credit. Alan Bowman and company, the receivers made a lot of big-time plays. There were some high-wire contested catches in that game that were the real movers for Oklahoma State on offense through a lot of that. I still thought OU moved the ball pretty well. I think turnovers were a bit of an issue, and so I still think the Sooners can get this done here. They're capable of lighting this thing up and still executing at a really high level. They just, ran into an Oklahoma State team that was playing real good ball at the right time, and I think made enough big plays in that game, but that were 50-50 plays that weren't run-of-the-mill plays that I thought took an extra effort there. And I don't know if I can count on that consistently from West Virginia.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about powerhouse football teams real quick. I'm not talking Georgia. I'm not talking Alabama. I'm talking James Madison. Wagon, all right? You got UConn. I believe this game's sitting at 24.5. I'm in love with this spread for James Madison. Let the wagon walk again. Give me your thoughts.
Oh, yeah. Listen, you ride the Duke disrespect all day long on this one for the Dukes. And this is a good reminder to spread the proper propaganda here. The NCAA, ridiculous. You already had the egg on your face with Tez at the beginning of the season with North Carolina. You don't need to keep messing this up now. This team did the transition the right way. You're not protecting them from anything. They're not trying to game the system. They've gone out here and they've done it the right way with the Sun Belt for the last couple of seasons now. Let these guys get their just reward. They've been one of the most exciting teams. Looking up for me as a Notre Dame fan, I should be disgusted, but somehow I'm heartened by the fact that I can look up in a world and see a poll where James Madison is actually ranked ahead of Notre Dame right now. And that's a testament to them. They deserve to reap the rewards. And I think they'll continue that disrespect tour stomping all through this weekend.
Free James Madison. God, the athletic department just beat the #1 team, I think, in women's soccer. Men's basketball team just beat Michigan State. Am I a James Madison fan and just never knew about it? Up and up,
All right. Let's get to the big one. All right, Temple heads down to South Florida. No, no disrespect meant actually yes, disrespect meant to Temple in South Florida, especially what Temple did to me last week when I had Navy. But it's one of my very few losses. You want to get in these picks, David?
Let's do. We got the top 5 games here.
Let's dive in.
Washington versus Utah. You started off.
Look, I love Kyle Whittingham. What they've done without Cam Rising, which I think is the right move, especially with him able to come back next year. I thought it's been smart. You still look where they're at. They're still in the fight. They're still ranked decently high. But you go to Washington. I think Utah's defense is really talented. I like the guys they have in the back end, but I don't think there's a better three-headed monster in the passing game at the receiver position. And then you throw in Michael Penix at quarterback with what they have with McMillan, Polk, and Udunze over there. I think Washington just scores too many. And I think the defense from Washington, while it isn't elite, it is good enough to stop a Utah team that doesn't have an answer really at quarterback against defenses that are worth their salt. I like Washington. I like them to cover the 9, too.
Minus 9.5. Washington over under 49.5. How you going, Blaine?
I mean, just too much offense from Washington. I mean, if Utah, man, it's always a good story. Cal Whittingham, great guy, great coach. Just the defense plays phenomenal. But I mean, the Dark Knight's not out there. All right, he hadn't been out there the whole season. So give me Penix, big Penix energy on this one. All right, I'm going Washington.
Mike, upset? Utah upset here?
I won't go upset. I was thinking about keeping us clean here and going Utah plus the 9.5, but I made the mistake last week, or last time out when they played Utah, or they played Oregon, of saying Utah at home, Kyle Whittingham, the defense, all those pass rushers getting after it. But I just think in this one, having to keep pace with what Washington's going to do on the other side, it worked in the SC game because you were able to match score for score, but you can drown pretty quickly against this Washington offense. I know they had a couple of stumbles after the Oregon game, a couple of clunkers in those weeks. I think that's in the rear view. I think they know the stakes right now. I think Washington wins big.
I do love this Utah program. I'm still mad at myself. I didn't trust my gut and take them against Southern California, but I had Washington in my college football playoff preseason. They're undefeated still. I have to ride with them. I have to ride with Michael Penix Jr. I'm going to go with Washington.
I think, too, Washington can have a average day on offense and score 38. Yep. That's how tough.
I think you're right. All right, a rivalry game in Florida that matters for the first time in some time now. We got Miami going on the road to play another unbeaten team here, the last one in the ACC, and that's Florida State.
Well, I should be talking about two veteran quarterbacks in a rivalry game that are both playing really well, and you can't wait to see this matchup. And we know how tight rivalry games can be, just because how it affects the preparation and obviously the emotion in the lead up. And I can say that about Jordan Travis. I know against Pitt in the first half last week, and wasn't exactly roses and tulips, but Pat Narduzzi has a way of doing that, 3 or 4 times a year against teams that are talented offensively or maybe better than they are, but. Tyler Van Dyke's turning the ball over. This Miami offense, I mean, they're playing with no consistency. It's like they're regressing. We saw flashes earlier in the year, especially against A&M. Well, come to find out, A&M's basically DB Cooper fraudulent in the back end. Going to Tallahassee, it's just too much offense. Florida State's too much of a complete team. They play complementary football, as we talked about earlier this week. I like them big. I like Florida State big in this game. Worried about them going to the swamp, though, and playing Florida.
Well, the line is big, 14.5.
Yeah, I know. I really want this game to be close, man. Growing up as a kid, watching this rivalry was one of the coolest things you can watch in football, but there's too much for Florida State. I mean, Benson, Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson's practicing this week. If that tree gets back out there, just another weapon for the arsenal. So give me Florida State, but give me Miami to cover. I'm going to bite up to 14.5. Give me Miami to cover.
Mike, any upset here?
No, I got no upset here. I can't trust this Miami team. Like we said, the second half of the season, it's sort of turned back into a pumpkin a bit. Game on the defensive side of the ball, maybe to get after the quarterback a little bit, but I think, what they've got with Trey Benson up front, even to complement Jordan Travis, one of the best movers and runners in college football at the quarterback spot. I think this team's going to go bombs away here. They're another one. A lot of tight margins here right now. And as we go down the stretch of the season, Florida State's going to have their target on the back and be that team that I think a lot of people talk about. If you get into the range of a couple of one-loss conference champions who have a little bit better resume or have looked better down the stretch, Florida State's going to be the one that people are looking at with questions. And so I think they got an answer this week.
I said this week, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Florida State won the national championship or lost multiple games down the stretch of this season. I could see either one happening. I do hope we're in for a good football game. Growing up a Florida State fan, I had my heart broken with plenty of wide rights and wide lefts and all that, but I'm going to go with the Seminoles in this one. They stay unbeaten. Missouri hosts Tennessee this week. I
know Luther Burden, is beat up. Who's not beat up this time of year? It's not having him obviously takes a huge missile out of the silo. I think this is one of the games, and we talked about this before the year, when a lot of people wanted to crown Joe Milton, the champion of champions and SEC Player of the Year and all that stuff. There's going to be a couple games where he's missing high over the middle. There's going to be a couple games where he has some crazy turnovers. I think this is one of those weird games. I think Missouri scores on special teams, even without Luther Burden. I love what they're doing with Brady Cook, a guy that's more dual threat than what people realize. Cody Schrader, they got a couple capable backs, including Cody Schrader. Weiss Jr. on the outside. They seem to find a way to stay in rhythm. I think the play calling really matches the personnel here. I think they're in a good sync. Going to Georgia, they were able to stay in the fight, a little bit beat up after that. But Tennessee coming into town, I just don't trust Joe Milton. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. Give me Missouri as the underdog. I like Missouri, even without Burden Jr., with or without.
The way they've been playing, it's a good pick. Blaine?
Yeah, that is a good pick. I'm going to lean the other way. Give me the Tennessee Volunteers in this game. I think Joe Milton has been playing some of his best football. He's played his career right now, 15 touchdowns, four interceptions, not turning the ball over, which is a huge compliment to Joe. And I think he's running the ball a lot better, and that's a huge facet of this game, especially with Tennessee. Heupel will have these guys going. I think if Luther's out of this game from Missouri, that's going to be a huge knock. I think Tennessee's defense will be the difference late in this game, in the stretch. I think they get to Brady Cook a little bit more than Missouri gets to Joe Milton. Give me the Volunteers.
Mike, who you taking?
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'm going to go Tennessee on this one. I had that Georgia-Missouri game last week, and just seeing in person how much the game changed offensively for Missouri when Luther Burden went down. It was a wild swing where he was inches away from catching a slot fade for a touchdown that would have had them continuing a really spicy beginning to that game. And then after that, even with him trying to give it to the old college try and go out there largely as a decoy, it just changed the dynamic of that offense so much. I'm with you on the Tennessee defense. I think they're able to keep this spicy, couple that with the rushing attack for the Vols on the other side, and I think they go in and pull this off.
I like it. I'm going to go with Tennessee as well. We talked at the beginning of the season about Joe Milton. You know, a lot of fans were mad at us not having him in the top 5 or top 10 of our quarterback list, and we explained ourselves, and I think that's proven to be the case. But when you look at the first half of a game like Alabama, you can see all the tools there. You know, the intermediate accuracy, layering the ball a little bit better. I love that you talk about the touchdown to interception ratio. I mean, 15-4. You know, I would have given anything for that back in the day when I was playing quarterback, even though the game has changed a lot. To me, it's about the Tennessee run game against Missouri. Can they get that going and not have him turn the football over?
Well, I say Joe Milton's what I call a Mardi Gras quarterback. There's some good flashes and some bad ones.
Touche. Well done, my friend. All right. Penn State is going to host Michigan. This is a big noon kickoff, not a night game in Beaver Stadium. And just for full disclosure, as we sit here recording this prior to Saturday, we don't know whether or not there are any Big Ten punishments coming down on Jim Harbaugh or the Michigan football program. So that could change by this weekend, the way this whole thing is going. What do you have to say about it all?
You guys can't use headsets the first quarter.
Is that our punishment?
I'm so sick of this movie.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of this. What Austin Powers says, this movie. Here's what's going to happen. Penn State's going to come out, play really good on defense for a while. Offensively, they're going to play small ball. They may take a couple shots. They'll be overthrown. The timing will be off because they haven't done it enough. And Michigan's going to score enough at the end where Penn State can't come back. Like, they'll hit a couple field goals. You know, Penn State may get a pick in the red zone or something to keep them in it. But they're going to lose this game. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. The only difference is now 74-year-old Sean Clifford isn't at quarterback, and they're not throwing the ball down his field as much. They're trying to protect Drew, and I get it. But sometimes you got to take the training wheels off so you don't go 18 for 42 against Ohio State.
You know what happens now, right? Penn State's going to clip that, put it in their hype video.
Too late.
Drew Aller's going to throw for 395 and 4 touchdowns, and they're going to beat Michigan. So thanks a lot.
Too late. Right? Yeah, how did that work out for LSU?
Blaine, what do you have?
You know, Michigan's the better team in every facet in this game. On offense, your quarterback's playing better. You have better skill positions. Your defense is playing a lot better. Will I forgive you for giving up that last touchdown against Purdue? No, I will not. You are dead to me when it comes to that. The more I think about this game, the public loves Michigan State. I mean, hell, y'all love Michigan State. Everyone we talk to loves
What'd
Michigan.
you say?
Excuse me.
You see Paul Bunyan's
not
right.
the little
Paul
green
Bunyan
ones.
trophy's right there.
But let me tell you what
them's fighting
Let me tell you
words.
what I'm going to do. All right?
My name's Glenn.
Josh Robinson, he's back, baby, and he's a problem.
Is he going to play?
He's getting to JJ. JJ makes a couple mistakes in this game that you haven't seen so far. Drew Aller steps up. James Franklin opens the playbook a little bit, and I'm going to say this, and a lot of people are going to be upset about it, but Penn State controls the line of scrimmage. Give me the Nittany Lions and Drew Aller and the boys, 11 o'clock, wide out, or whatever the hell it is, beats Michigan, last second field goal.
Yes, Prime Minister, we got him. Yeah,
You'll never
we got him.
You'll never
we got him. We got him.
All right.
Shutter Island's on the way.
I love it. Now I'm real fired up. Mike, your thoughts, and feel free, please, as a former player, to weigh in on everything that's going on with the Michigan football program right now.
I mean, what a layup for Jim Harbaugh and company from like the motivational side of it. Like, you guys can all hear him all week, right?
Yeah.
This is what they think of you. They think you haven't played anybody and you need a bunch of fancy signs from the vacuum cleaner salesman in order to go out there and beat everybody. And it's all week long going to be that. We've seen some comments from some of the guys on that team, especially the guys up front, who have been very tight-lipped because they've heard all the noise there. And so I don't think that, gives you any more rah-rah than you already would for a game like this against a quality opponent in Penn State and all the history of this matchup. But I'm a firm believer when people show you who they are, believe them. What belief should I have that Penn State's going to be able to or willing to open up the passing game in a way that's meaningful? What reason do I have to believe that what we saw last year, a Michigan offensive line with a bunch of the same faces, a backfield with a bunch of the same guys, a quarterback that's still a part of that rushing attack as well, going up against Penn State defense that didn't all of a sudden get a ton bigger in the middle? They got a bunch of great athletes, but against that great maze wall, it's a really difficult matchup for Manny Diaz to try and throw the kitchen sink at. And so I think Michigan wins this game. I think they finally get to answer the cries from the public about you haven't played anybody and go out and do it in pretty resounding fashion in Happy Valley.
Who are you picking?
Yeah, who you gonna pick?
Who you
Dave?
gonna pick, David?
Yeah.
Look, man, like I've said, this whole, I'm still going to call it a witch hunt here, and it's a witch hunt regardless if any rules were actually broken or not. Has been a net negative for Michigan. Regardless of what else you want to say, it's been a net negative. To me, you have to go win the football game if you're Michigan, because that's only going to be made worse if you go out and lose. Like, the low-hanging fruit now is, oh, well, you see what happens when you don't have another team's signals. And it's unfortunate that it happens at the same time that you're playing the toughest competition that you're going to face. This was the game I circled at the beginning of the year as the most likely loss for Michigan, and it's the first time I've done that in over a decade that the most likely loss to me wasn't the Buckeyes, because you're playing at Beaver Stadium, State College, on the road. I thought it was a possibility it could be a night game. I've played 2 night games there. It's the
Perfect
coolest
for you
environment
guys.
in the Big Ten. It's going to be a noon kickoff. I think the line here is right. Like you had talked about all week, Jake.
Under.
I do like the under, but the fact that Penn State hasn't hit those big explosive plays down the field, I think is going to be a problem for them. I do think that defense, though, if Chop Robinson comes back, can sort of stifle the Michigan run game. So then the question becomes, can you turn J.J. McCarthy over? Like Blaine's
Will
betting
Michigan
on
lose
turnover. Or a strip sack fumble the way they had against OSU that got called back when Marvin Harrison Jr. got called when they were holding him, which shows how he's able to affect the game in a bunch of ways. I mean, I'm going to take the Michigan Wolverines. At this point, you have to just keep winning and prove that this is, all a witch hunt, despite what's going on.
I agree.
Come on, James. Don't let me down, damn it. Won 9 games at Vandy twice.
Yeah.
Greatest coaching job ever.
It gets you an infinity stone.
It's a winnable football game for them.
For sure.
No doubt.
All right. It's the big one here, Georgia Ole Miss.
Oh, yes, Georgia, Ole Miss. So we got a number 3 ranked Georgia,
Right.
number 2 ranked Georgia, in the college football playoff rankings against the number 9 ranked Ole Miss in the college football playoff rankings. 1 loss, 8-1, headed to undefeated Georgia.
Look, I'm cool. I'm hip. I'm with it. I want to be edgy. I want to pick Ole Miss, right? I think this Lane Kiffin team is different. I don't think they're just a doormat defensively. Top 10 in sacks, I believe, have shown some physicality, some depth in the front 7, winning in multiple ways. But this Georgia team just keeps getting better. It's like on, I can't even remember. I think it may be the Knocked Up movie when the girl's mad at her husband. She's like, the older he gets, the better looking he gets. She gets worse looking, he gets better looking. That's what Georgia is. They just get better looking each week. Brock Bowers gone, that's fine. Here's Ladd McConkey, Haru, the Great White Ninja. All of a sudden, Brock Bowers is running 20 miles per hour again. And they kill you in the second half. So I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Ole Miss will probably come out hot. Ole Miss will probably come out and get the lead. I wouldn't be shocked if Ole Miss was either tied or maybe even up at halftime. But eventually, Georgia figures it out. They're one of the best in making adjustments in the country with Mike Bobo, Schumann, and Kirby Smart. Their roster is as talented as anybody's out there. Ole Miss seems to kind of fade a little bit in the second half, even though they hung on against LSU. They hung on against A&M. You're not hanging on against Georgia. This Georgia team is winning while developing. I think this is Kirby Smart's best coaching job up to this point with the roster that he has. Ole Miss first half, Georgia's second half. Last man standing wins is Georgia.
I mean, sooner or later, Belo break cage. And Belo get this.
He does.
Ole Miss?
Georgia is. That's what Georgia is. Look, Ole Miss, great story. Lane Kiffin's going to win 10 games. We'll all be excited with the parade in the street. But I heard Brock Bowers just running 20 miles per hour at practice the other day. And if that freak's out there, they're just not going to be close. Yeah. At the end of the day, Georgia's getting healthy. That's what you see Milton out there running the ball. I mean, at one point, Georgia had a receiver playing running back.
Yeah, 86.
Ladd McConkey, Haru, an absolute witch. And look, you have to get over these games with Missouri and all this, but I think the line of scrimmage is the difference in this game. Carson Beck will be able to sit back there, read poetry, write a book, maybe quilt. Jackson Dart will be running for his life this entire game. Give me the dogs. Give me Kirby. The dogs roll again. Roof, 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 roof.
Mike, Ole Miss only lost 24-10 at Alabama. Is this one going to play out the same? We see another sequel, or can they pull off a different movie?
I unfortunately have to join the chorus on this show of barking noises into the camera here and go with the Bulldogs. I think, too, when you look at the way that teams like this Alabama's team defensively, Georgia's team defensively, their structure is built specifically to give problems to offenses like the one Lane Kiffin architects. Now, you've got great players in the midst of that, right? Judkins, Trey Harris, all these guys that are going out there, legitimate players. And I think along the lines of scrimmage on offense, actually a bit of an underrated group year in and year out, Ole Miss and the job that they do there. But come on now, you think I'm going to pick against Nazir Stackhouse the weekend after we get to see one of the greatest plays of large excellence on the entire college football season? That group took it personally, by the way. Going into the season, Stackhouse and the rest of that D-line heard from their head coach, Kirby Smart, well, I don't know if we got a guy like we've had in the past, like a Jalen Carter or, the guys that we've had before. I don't know if we're as deep as we were before. And that group's played with a big chip on their shoulder. And so I'm with you. I think that defensive front seven continues to show, hey, we might not be 2021 or 2022s, but we're still good enough to go out there and make it hurt for you every weekend.
It seems like you've been right. That G on the helmet just stands for gravity, and over time it just does its thing. I don't see how you pick against Georgia right now. I'm going to go with the Bulldogs, and that not only is the case for this game, but just moving forward, like you said, they get better every week. That's what championship teams do, and it seems like that's what Kirby Smart's going to do with this program every single season.
Bow to your sensei.
Better and better, no matter what the roster.
That's what Kirby is. Bow to your sensei.
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt. I mean, look, Georgia, it's like Thanos, man. It's inevitable. Like it's how it's going to be, and it's going to be that way for a while with Kirby Smart. But Mike, it's always great when you join us, my friend. Gojo and Golic. You can find you everywhere. You're on Learfield. You see you analyzing college football all the time. Tell everybody what's the best way to find and consume all the Mike Golic Jr. Content that's out there.
Yeah, man. At Mike Golic Jr. on all social media, at Gojo and Golic on all social media. Like you mentioned, we're there Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern, 5 days a week on DraftKings YouTube channel, DraftKingsNetwork.com, all that good stuff. And Learfield College Football Saturday night. Me and Chris Hassel heading down to College Station. First trip to Kyle Field, Texas A&M hosting Mississippi State.
Okay.
So excited to see the 12th man in person and feel the anxiety that seems to always exist around Texas A&M's football program right now. They got a ton of talent. You cut on that defense, it's hard not to be impressed by those NFL bodies, but still waiting for the results to catch up on the top end right now. We'll see if they can notch another one this weekend.
Yeah, what A&M has in that front seven is absolutely filthy. Woo. Absolutely filthy. All right, Mike, we appreciate it, brother. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and keep checking out the content whenever we drop it, which is like every 30 minutes.